Video games have always been a really big part of my life. I remember when my family and I first immigrated to Canada, one of the gifts that my relatives gave my brother and I was a Sega Saturn, and I think that is where my love of gaming really started. So throughout my life, games have always been a huge part of the journey, and my favorite games are always a blend of amazing story, charming characters, beautiful artwork, and just fun gameplay. I really think that there is a game out there for everyone, and as I became a product designer, I became even more interested in seeing how these immersive environments came to be. And without getting too cheesy about it, video games and the worlds that my favorite characters live in mean a lot to me. So for this video, I am going to be personalizing my experience even more so by customizing my Nintendo Switch. So my original Nintendo Switch had a red Joy-Con and a blue Joy-Con, but I customized it with Extreme Rates Joy-Con shells to create this pretty white and pastel pink Nintendo Switch aesthetic that matched really well with my desk setup. So that was the first time that I had customized my Joy-Cons, and I was so intimidated by all of the reviews that I read, but I decided to just spend an afternoon and see how it went, and I'm really happy that I did because the experience was honestly a lot of fun and I was so happy with how it turned out looking. For this video, I am so happy to announce that I am partnering with Extreme Rate to customize my Joy-Cons again with these Matcha green Joy-Con shells, and I'll also be customizing my Nintendo Switch dock with this Matcha green faceplate. Extreme Rate offers many kits to help you customize your Joy-Cons and your dock. There are even kits if you have a PS5, PS4, Xbox, and even desk mats. Check out the link in my description and be sure to use my code Charli to receive 10% off your purchase. So the keikaku today is to customize one Joy-Con with the matcha green and the other one with the pastel pink to make this pink and green color combination that I think will look really nice. I'm also going to switch out my black buttons for these colorful buttons that I got too. So I know it sounds really scary to open up your Joy-Cons, but I have to tell you guys that it's really not that difficult at all. I think if you've ever had experience changing a light bulb or building IKEA furniture, then you're gonna be absolutely fine doing this too. So before we start, I'm gonna give you a few of my tips. And the first tip that I have is to keep your space organized. Now, I think this is just a general tip for life to be organized and clean, but when you're doing this, you really want to make sure that you keep your surface, your tabletop clean and organized. Wipe it down with something before you start, just so you can get what you need when you need it and not have to dig around to find very tiny little screws and pieces. Think of it like mise en place when you're cooking. You just want to have everything prepped and ready to go so that you can just add it in when you need to. Also, I like to have the video that I'm going to be referencing up and ready to go, and I like to wash my hands as well, just so I feel like, you know, I'm cleaner and I'm in that building kind of mindset. My next tip is that if you have a dark surface or you're working on a dark table, then to use sticky notes and then put your little screws and things on top of them. The screws that you're going to be using for your Joy-Cons and for your dock are super small, and if you're working on a dark surface, some of them are black, which would make them very difficult to see. So I like putting a sticky note down and then putting the screws on top, and then sometimes you can label it too if you want to. My next tip is to start with the left Joy-Con. So the left Joy-Con and the right Joy-Con are honestly really similar when it comes to customizing them. The only difference is that the right Joy-Con has this little sensor at the very bottom, and that just makes it a little bit more difficult and adds an extra piece to you customizing your Joy-Con. So if you want to start on the easier one, you want to start with the left one. My next tip is to take pictures. I think this is probably the most helpful tip for me because I have the brain where you can watch something happen in the video, but then when I look down into the thing that I'm working on, I just completely forget everything. So it's really helpful for you to take pictures at every step so that you remember where certain screws go, how the parts are supposed to fit together, and it just makes it easier when you have a picture to reference. And my last tip before we start is to be gentle but firm with your screws. So the Joy-Con has very tiny screws, and you want to be very careful that you don't end up stripping them. Stripping is when you remove the top pattern of the screw and you can't take it out because your screw doesn't fit in anymore. It doesn't spin it anymore. If you do end up stripping your screw, it's not the end of the world, and I will leave a couple videos down below in case you do end up doing so that might help you out, but it is not ideal, and it is going to make your experience a little bit more frustrating and difficult. So you want to treat your screws like a plant. Just be firm, but be gentle. Make sure you have the right screw head. Make sure righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, you got that covered, and you should be fine. So those are all of my tips. Now let's get started with our Joycons.
Suntan, sunscreen, strawberry, ice cream, midsummer's daydream, sipping it between long days, warm nights, gliding like kites, sapphire, clear skies, whipped cream, cherry pies. Ooh, every year right around June 21st, yeah. Ooh, I slip in my swimsuit, diving head first. Everything's coming up roses. Peachy, I feel like the world is finally swaying in the sunshine. Oh my, it's looking so fun.
Okay, so now that I have taken apart the Joycon, it's time to actually put it into the new shell, and this is all of your hardware in one piece. Haha, one piece. So I have the green Matcha shell right here. This is the front side that's facing us, and then this is the back side that we're going to be using for the back. So I like to start off on this front side because that's where you can line up all of your little buttons and stuff. So in here, I hope you can see it, hopefully it'll focus. Yeah, so in here, for all the little keypad buttons, you can see that there's little ridges inside of it. And those ridges will help you determine which button goes where because they're all different. And then once it lines up, you know that it's fine. So I'm gonna put those in and just get started on that. I hope you guys can see from here, but I'm just putting in the little screws in this section. Oh man, I really hope you guys can see. I know it's so small, but there's 3 little screws here that I need to put in, and I'm just going to use my tweezers, grab the little screw, and hopefully place it in close enough. Now let's screw it in. So the back screws are halfway in. Now I'm just going to test the buttons one more time. 2, 4, click, click, click. Okay, so it looks like everything's fit in perfectly. I'm just going to finish up and screw in the screws completely. Cool. So last thing I'm gonna do here is just check that it fits in and clicks into my switch. Great. So this side is all done. Now we just have to do our other side.
Every year right around June 21st, yeah. Ooh, I slip in my swimsuit, diving head first. Everything's coming up roses. Peachy, I feel like.
So now that I've taken everything apart, I'm going to switch out my white Joycon for these pastel pink ones. So this is the front one, and then this is the back. So on the right Joycon, it is pretty much the same. I'm just going to show you guys all the insides here, but you have the same thing, the button, you have the A, B, X, Y buttons, the battery, and like all that stuff. It is a little bit more complicated this time because we do have that sensor. If you can see, we have the, if you can see it, if it'll focus, you do have the sensor at the very bottom of it. Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated, but it's not very hard. The one thing that I did already is line up my A, B, and XY buttons because I don't want to mess those up. Like, I definitely want them to be in the right place.
In the sunshine, oh my, it's looking so fun. Divine, linen dresses, straw houses, blowing hair through the wind as we're spinning. Watercolor world, it's all just beginning. Roses, peachy, I feel like the world is finally swaying in the sunshine. Oh my.
So here are our finished Joycons, and I think this is such a cute little modification. It is adorable. I love the colors that we chose. They're aesthetic, they're cozy, and they're also playful too, which I just absolutely love. It's so fitting. So I think for the Joycons, we're actually done with the customization part, and I'm just going to take a quick break and then we can get started on the dock. So I took a quick break and I ended up getting my dock from downstairs because I usually like to play on the TV in the living room, but what I'm going to do today is just change out this front-facing plate and then switch it out with this matcha green one. So I hope it'll be pretty easy. Famous last words, of course. But yeah, I hope it'll be pretty easy. This is going to be my first time doing this, so I'm hoping it'll go okay. But yeah, let's just get started. I am going to be using a tutorial that I found online on YouTube, and I'll link it in the description below.
Every year right around June 21st, yeah. I slip in my swimsuit, diving head first. Everything's coming up roses, peachy. I feel like the world is finally swaying in the sunshine. Oh my, it's looking so fine, divine. Fields of lavender, Provence weather, evening walks, the fireflies with the twinkling of secrets, whispering sprinklers, bare feet, fingers running through vineyards. Every year right around.
Okay, I think that's done. I think it looks really nice. It's really nice and simple, and then the back has just stayed the same and everything should be in place. So with the Joycons and the Switch itself, should look something like this, and I think this is gonna look really, really good in my computer setup, so I'm really excited to test it out there. I think overall the faceplate was definitely a lot easier than the Joycons, but it was also my first time doing it, and there were some hiccups along the way where I couldn't fit in the ribbon cable properly, so that took a little bit more effort. I think the tutorial that I got was really helpful, it was really easy, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna link it to you guys in the description below if you want to check it out. But yeah, why don't we go test this out? Oh! It's doing it!
It's so wide.
Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to look like this.
Suntan, sunscreen, strawberry, ice cream, midsummer's daydream, sipping in between long days, warm nights, gliding like light.
So now that everything is plugged in, I am going to be playing Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I've already finished Dimitri's route, which I did first, and then I played through Claude's route. Now I just have to do Edelgard's route and then the final church route, but it's just taking me a little bit of time to get in the mindset of wanting to play this game again, because while I love the Fire Emblem series, I think this game is not its strongest, especially because we have to repeat the first 11 chapters every single time, and it's just a lot of repeated content. But yeah, I'm gonna play this game, and this actually brings us to the end of the video. I really believe there's a game for everyone, and I am so happy that my Nintendo Switch is customized to me now, and that just makes the gaming experience even better. So I really want to say thank you to Extreme Rate for sponsoring this video, and as always, a huge thank you to you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!
I slip in my swimsuit, diving head first. Everything's coming up